Okay, hello again everybody. I have to apologise for the delay in between videos again. I've had a ton of exams lately and so much work to do because I am actually at university, for those of you who don't know. So yes, I'm sorry about that. The other thing I have to say quickly is I don't think there are going to be any more videos on this channel, not because I'm not going to be doing any more videos, but because there is a new channel that me and my friend Tom have started called Lambda Gamers. Now I will leave the link in the description to this channel, so if you would like to see any more videos, please go check that out. We're going to be doing everything ranging from Space Marine to Dawn of War to Guild Wars to EVE Online, and of course there'll be more World of Warcraft videos for you guys, more guides and heroic runs, and probably do some PvP as well actually. I will try and do some of that for you guys to see. Okay, so anyway, today I'm going to bring you a Shadow Priest guide. Yes, as I've done the healing guide and I've done a couple of Warlock ones, I thought it was about time we took a look at the Shadow Priest. So the first thing I'm going to show you is the spec I'm using, which is this. I won't go into too much detail about it because there's not really a whole lot to explain. It's fairly obvious. There are a couple of points you can move around, but this is a very basic, simple spec to use. Yeah, so use it. Okay, here are the glyphs I'm using. For the primary glyphs, there aren't really much choice. You've got to use Glyph of Mindflay, Glyph of Shadow or Death. Okay, I suppose this one could be changed for something, but there really isn't much of a better choice for Shadow. Go with this one because it's very useful when they get below 25%, and Shadow Word Pain, straight increase of 10% damage. The major glyphs, I like to use Spirit Tap and Inner Fire. It's just a personal choice. There aren't really many good decisions here. Just a random shaman jumping around. Okay. Yeah, there aren't really many good glyphs here for Shadow, none that increase your DPS a decent amount anyway. You could go with Scourge Imprisonment for a little bit of CC, or Psychic Horror, but it's not really too necessary, especially if you're in a group with other people who can CC, and the minor glyphs are just yours to choose. The gear I have, I will show you it, but please keep in mind I've not actually been playing through a couple of months, so I have missed a lot of the recent gear updates, but you can see hopefully just basically the way it should be. Don't look too much at the actual gear, just try and look at the stats and the way I've reforged it and the gems I'm using. So yeah, just pause the video if you want to actually see any of these in any great detail. Most of these are still yes, 378 level. You can see my Trinket Soul Casket is the one I'll talk about, the cooldowns. And yeah, I've still got a couple of healing bits on here because my main spec is obviously healing, and yeah, so this is Shadow gear, just kind of collected from doing heroic runs and whatnot. Okay, the first thing I'll talk about for the actual rotation is cooldowns. Whereas in Holy and Discipline you kind of see Shadow Fiend as a mana regeneration mechanic, in Shadow you can't think of it like that. You have to think of it as a DPS cooldown. So we're just going to be popping this every 4 minutes, well actually it's slightly less than 4 minutes because Mindflay criticals reduce the cooldown of it by a certain amount, but don't worry about that, just cast Shadow Fiend whenever it's off cooldown. And the same with Archangel. I will show you, I'll put up in another annotation the actual I say rotation. Shadow Priests are a bit like Warlocks in the fact that they have a priority order rather than a rotation, but yeah, you'll see. It'll be on the left side of the screen, somewhere around here, or maybe over here, depending on how much space is on the screen, are the cooldowns and when you have to use them. So there's Archangel, and it'll also be Dark Archangel because we're Shadow. And these both obviously help you regenerate mana, which is a pain for Shadow Priests, but I'll hopefully show you how to overcome that as well. Okay, the other thing with Shadow Priests, before I get onto the rotation, is they are very, very random number generated dependent. The amount of DPS you do depends completely on how much how the RNG works for you in terms of getting Shadow Orbs and maintaining Empowered Shadows, because that is the thing that increases your DPS probably the most, I argue. And very quickly about Mindflay, some people still use the Mindflay no channeling macro, and those of you who use it will know what I'm on about, but it doesn't matter if you don't know what I'm on about, because all I'm going to say is don't use it. Since they got rid of clipping with damage over time effects, it's obsolete and actually reduces your DPS. You want to just recast Mindflay as close as the end to it as you can, but so you're still channeling it, as you'll see. Okay, now the rotation itself, what we're going to be doing, there's a bit of a debate within the community as to whether to just cast all your dots and then wait for a Mind or a Shadow Orb, sorry. But the way I like to do it I'm not saying this is necessarily the best way to do it, but this is a way that works for me. Obviously change it so it works for you. I like to cast Shadow Word Pain on them and then spam Mind Flay until I have at least one Shadow Orb. After I've done that, I'll cast Mind Blast to get Empowered Shadows up, then I'll I'll cast for the first time Vampiric Touch and and Devouring Plague. Then I'll use all my cooldowns, so that's going to be Archangel, Shadow Fiend and Soul Casket. But I have also got my Soul Casket macroed with Lifeblood because I'm a herbalist. Okay, then after that we're just going to keep Vampiric Touch and Devouring Plague up, casting Mind Blast generally whenever it's off cooldown, but I'll explain a bit more about that as we go through the rotation. And Shadow Word Death either if you need mana or if the target is below 25% health. Or the only other exception to this is you would use it before you cast Mind Blast if you have the tier 13 bonus, which gives you plus 55% damage. And the shaman's there and kind of make a ton of noise, isn't he? So we'll get rid of the sound for a second. Okay, so let's have a look at that. So we're going to pick a different dummy so we don't get the effects from him. So as I said, we're going to be casting... oh yes, we're going to be looking at Forte Exorcist here. With these buffs, as you can see, we're using a fire over Inner Will because of the spell power bonus, and we don't need the mana regen too much. Unless you're really struggling with mana, you can use Inner Will, but it won't help all that much. Okay, so here we go. Shadow Word Pain, casting Mind Flay until we get one Shadow Orb. There we go, there's a Shadow Orb. Wait for the first tick of Mind Flay, Mind Blast, recast those two, and we're going to go Archangel, Shadow Fiend, and Soul Casket, and then Mind Flay. We have the Shadow Orb, so we'll use Mind Blast, and we're just going to keep up this priority order. Okay, and I'll very quickly explain about Mind Blast while I'm doing this. Sorry, I shouldn't use Shadow Word Death there. Now, Mind Blast you use generally to keep up Empowered Shadows, so because it has I think it's a 1.2 second cast time and a 6.5 second cooldown, that means that as long as you have at least 9 seconds left in Empowered Shadows, you either cast Mind Blast if you have a Shadow Orb, or if Empowered Shadows has more than 9 seconds left on its duration. Okay, that might sound a bit complicated, but you'll see what I mean, because you need Empowered Shadows to keep up your damage over time. Well, damage, basically. So yeah, we can just see casting Mind Flare, nothing else to do. Mind Blast when it's off cooldown, when we either have Shadow Orbs, or Empowered Shadows is above 9 seconds left on its duration. Just like this. There we go, we've got a Shadow Orb, so we can cast Mind Blast. We're just looking for these cooldowns, waiting for the next chance we get to use any of them. The red bars are the cooldowns, by the way, on my Forte Exorcist, and these ones are the ones I've actually got going. Sorry, I did cast a Devouring Plague there, it didn't register. Okay, don't worry too much about Archangel at this point, it should just keep going with Mind Flay. Nice and simply. Archangel's almost off cooldown. Refresh Vampiric Touch. Just gotta wait for that. Now what you can do, there we go, there's Archangel. Okay, that stacks up. Again, okay, so yeah, you can use Shadow Word Death if you get a bit low on mana as well. So because Shadow Priests do suffer from mana issues, you can, like I'm starting to get a bit low now, so I'll start throwing in the odd Shadow Word Death just to help out with mana. Just going through this, following a priority order, not too bad. Okay, should have cast Vampiric Touch first because it had a higher priority order there. I'm not doing this perfectly, obviously, because I am trying to talk at the same time and it's very confusing. Yeah, so we're going to go with Devouring Plague there. So Soul Casket's off cooldown. Should probably have cast the Soul Casket Lifeblood combo first though. There we go, Shadow Fiend's almost off cooldown. Like I said, treating it as a DPS cooldown, a bit low on mana, so we'll go with a Shadow Word Death there. Shadow Fiend's off cooldown, wait for the next tick of Mind Flay, there it is. Shadow Fiend. Yep, and just following this rotation, not too difficult, just trying to maintain Empowered Shadows at all time. There we go, okay, I think that's enough of that. Okay, the only other thing we have to talk about is AoE damage. Now what I like to do for AoE damage, basically you use Mind Sear, which isn't too difficult, but that is boring. Now what you can do, I'm just going to use Dispersion here to get some mana back. Dispersion is a great cooldown, by the way, obviously if you're in a PvE dungeon or raid, just to avoid damage mechanics or to get mana back if you're absolutely desperate. But try not to use it because obviously it's a good, what's the duration of it? It's 6 seconds, so it means you can't attack for 6 seconds, which is a long while, and a lot of your dots will fall off, and it's not good, so try and avoid it where possible. use Shadow Word Death if you have to, like I showed you, to regenerate mana. Okay, now when you have to do AoE damage, what I like to do, ignoring cooldowns for the time being, we're going to cast Shadow Word Pain on all the targets you can see in front of us, and then what we're going to do to start channeling Mind Seer until we get a Shadow Orb. Then once we get a Shadow Orb like that, we're going to cast Mind Blast to get Empowered Shadows, and then keep going back to Mind Seer, because Empowered Shadows will increase obviously the damage of Mind Seer by 29% as well. Well, for me it's 29% because of my mastery, but yeah, it increases it by a lot, as you can see, and that will do a ton of AoE damage. Okay, and the only other thing we have to talk about is if you're on trash that dies really quickly, instead of doing your rotation above, because they'll probably die before you get a good chance to do any damage, a better way of doing some DPS is just use Mind Spike and Mind Blast. So what we're going to be doing here is we're going to be doing 3 or 4 Mind Spikes and then casting Mind Blast whenever it's off cooldown. So just this, very simple, 2 or 3 Mind Spikes, just Mind Spiking until Mind Blast comes off cooldown, and then Mind Blast, just like that, and that will kill them. Anything that dies really quickly will die. Well, yeah, you actually get to do some decent DPS on it as a Shadow Priest, and this is the best way you can do burst damage as a Shadow Priest as well. It does do reasonable DPS, but it will eat through your mana really quickly, which is why we use the damage over time rotation on longer fights, because that actually gives you a chance of regenerating mana. Okay, and finally, all I'll talk about now is very quickly, get some mana back again, how to do DPS when you're on the move. This is quite simple, so we're going to assume we're doing our normal rotation here, so we've got all our dots up, and now we have to move, so all we're going to be doing is spam Devouring Plague, basically, because this has a nice little, for me it's about 5k hit on this initial effect, and you can also keep Shadow Word Pain up on the move, use Shadow Word Death if you start to run out of mana. You won't be able to keep Vampiric Touch up, so you just have to hope. You might be able to stop for a second and recast it, do if you can, and yeah, that's how you do damage on the move. Pretty simple, but hopefully you won't be moving for too long, because that eats through your mana with Devouring Plague and doesn't do the greatest DPS, obviously because you're on the move. No class does good DPS on the move. Okay, so if you have any questions, please feel free to leave them in the comments as always. Please feel free to comment on this channel. I will still reply to every comment on here. Please feel free to like and subscribe and favourite. And like I said, please go check out Lambda Gamers. I'll leave the link in the description, and all the videos I do from now on, all the guys will be up on there. As I've said, I will probably try and do some PvP videos, and the only thing I'd like to ask is what you guys would like to see next. Obviously I can still do the Discipline Guide for healing, or I can do the Demonology Guide for the Warlock. The other thing I can do is Profession Guides. I'm an inscriptionist, a herbalist, tailor on my Warlock, so I can do any of those guides as well. So yeah, please let me know what you want, and go check out Lambda Gamers. And I will probably do a heroic demonstration with the Shadow Priest in the next video, but as I said, that'll be up on Lambda Gamers. So thank you for watching, and Sam out.